So this interview is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and the 21-Day Transformation. And if you are someone, an entrepreneur, a high performer who's ready to take your life to the next level. Now, what does that mean? It means that you're going to stop self-sabotage. It means that you're going to stop hiding out. It means that you're going to stop making excuses about why you're not where you want to be, or saying, I want it, but I'm not really willing to do what it takes. If you're tired of being that guy or that girl, and you're ready to step it up to a whole new level, the 21-Day Transformation will help you achieve your goal in 21 days. Not a year, not 6 months, not 90 days, but 21 days so that you can set a target and have relentless ferocity to achieve that goal. And I'll be with you step by step, every step of the way. If limiting beliefs come up, we'll deprogram those. If you fall off track, we'll be keeping in touch every single day for 21 days with multiple coaching calls, hour-long, plus diving in deep to your subconscious mind to make sure that you are on fire, kicking butt, taking names. If that is you and you're interested, definitely send me a message, get in contact with me, find me on facebook.com/th3burns, or just let me know however you find me, and then send me a message saying I'm interested in the 21-Day Transformation, and I'll send you an application, fill it out. If it's a good fit, we'll jump on a call and make sure it's all good to go. And then if not, I'll send you some resources or send you in the direction of someone that might be able to help you better. So I'm looking for 2 people for this only. So if that's you, definitely get in contact. Now, the iTunes review of the week is by 17th Try. And 17th Try said, what did 17th Try say on iTunes? 17th Try said, I love this insight. I've heard people saying things before like, don't wait until you're ready. You'll never be ready. I loved your twist on that. If you'll never be ready, you'll also never be not ready. Your energy is powerful. I look forward to hearing more episodes of your show. So 17th Try, thank you so much for sharing that and giving us that feedback. And if you want to leave us an iTunes review of the week, please feel free to do that at beyourgps.com/iTunes, and you can find it there, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes, or search us on Facebook, and you can leave us a review there. Now, for the epic powerhouse woman of the hour. Jeana is a practitioner of prosthetics and orthotics, fitness expert, business owner, lifestyle entrepreneur, host of the Abundance Formula podcast, and 4-time National Bikini Competitor. She specializes in the science of the body, nutrition, and whole person health, and especially in cultivating in people the ability to accomplish more than they ever thought they could. Together with her husband, they run their business called Oldham Strong, which provides in-person and online personal training and life coaching. Jeana and her husband help people create the life they want by teaching them how to tap into abundant living and to develop not just the body, but their mind, spirit, and purpose as well. Jeana has learned to transform adversity into radical abundance, from having severe anxiety and eating disorder, being physically, mentally, and emotionally abused, and having less than $25 in her bank account, to owning her power and becoming a highly successful and awarded practitioner in her field, entrepreneur and business owner, and bountifully happy wife, and soon-to-be mother. The greatest achievement in life is not just overcoming the odds and writing your own epic story, but being there for and helping others to do the same. Jeana, you ready to rock this?
I am. I'm excited.
She is ready to rock this. Awesome. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have a lot of fun, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Hopefully you can hear me. I've got kind of a cold, so I'll try to speak really clearly.
Oh, you're rocking it. You're rocking it. It's all perfect. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and let's start with the theme of the day, which is freedom to choose. So Jeana, how has that impacted your life and your who you are as a person?
I really love that theme. So the freedom to choose. I mean, one of the biggest things I'm passionate about because of my life's experience is that I feel like there's 2 kinds of people in the world. Everybody's going to go through trials and tribulations, but you have the choice. So are you going to be the person that, because of all of those really bad things, because of all those giants in your life that you have to slay, do you choose to be the person that takes those and says, oh, why are these happening to me? I don't deserve this, or do I deserve this? This has got me down. So-and-so can achieve this because they didn't have to go through this. I'm so tired. You can say all of those things to yourself and ultimately use them as your excuse to why you're not showing up the way you feel called to show up in life.
Hmm.
Or you can be the kind of person that says, you know what, these giants are opportunities. These giants are training for me to step into the kind of person I actually need to be to accomplish the big purpose I feel called to. So the freedom to choose for me has meant that in my life. I'd have plenty of opportunities that it would have been way easier to blame the things that were happening to me that were not my fault, not my mistakes, not my cause. And yet I was the one suffering from those to take away my future, to take away my ability to find a wonderful husband, to make a lot of great money, to do a lot of really great things. But instead I chose, which was not the easier road, to say, okay, if I have to go through these, I don't want them to be wasted. So what can I learn from these? How is this going to make me better? How's this going to be my resistance training to make me stronger so that I can carry the weight of the blessing I feel I'm meant to give to the world? So I learned that a special life theme that I feel is that truly the difference between where you are now and where you want to be is the measure of your faith. That's truly the difference. How much faith do you have in the abundance that your life is meant to have, and that it is yours no matter what's going on? So that's probably what that means to me.
Wow, that's beautiful. What a great response. By the way, I'm curious, how did you develop your articulate, effective communication? Because you're very powerful with your word choices and communication ability. It's phenomenal.
Oh gosh. Well, I would say there's a couple things. I grew up, my dad is an industrial psychologist. So I grew up with all my poor boyfriends got personality tested with Scantrons. And then we had to sit down and we assessed our compatibility based on personality types and how we should communicate based on our person. It was really embarrassing.
Oh my goodness.
The only person who never had to take one was actually my husband.
Wow.
Shocking. So I did grow up with just constant in-depth, which I actually highly value, is I learned very young about different people's personalities and how to take your personality and communicate to the other person. So I've grown just very intuitive with that part. And then some of it is just natural. I always loved to write as a kid. I wrote tons of books as a kid. I would write for hours. I have this weird callus on my finger from writing for so long.
Wow.
So I've always loved to write. That's always been just something that comes natural to me. And I've always liked to talk. So that's where the hardest part for me is being very just not being too wordy. My husband's always you always tell such long, detailed stories. I'm but I feel like you need to know all those things so you really feel it.
Yes.
But yeah, so I guess that's probably, especially the communication, I would say is definitely to my dad, because of being just immersed in personalities and what goes with all of those.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, it's definitely fostered your love of knowledge, your love of growing, your love of empowering other people with this knowledge as well. So I'm grateful for your dad, and he absolutely prepared you and equipped you incredibly well. So let's dive in a little bit more to what you're working on today with Oldham Strong and, these prosthetics and orthotics, and a podcast. You're doing all these amazing things. So tell us a little bit more about that and the whole world of it.
Yeah. So as far as my work as a practitioner, I know it's a lot of words all at once. So basically I'm a practitioner that specializes in prosthetics a lot of people have heard of. So basically a patient will come to see me and they've lost a leg, whether that's in the past or recently. And my favorite part of that is because basically it's life coaching day to day. They come in and they've lost their leg, they had a past life, they had past things they were doing. And so we get to sit down and we get to have really real, raw conversations, because especially a lot of people are feeling raw at that point. They're young kids that, they wanted to go for the football team and now they're missing their leg. What are they going to do? And, or an adult that was a police officer and he was climbing the ranks and he's got a family. And, so you sit down and you get really close with these people, which is why I love it, because it's very relational. And so, and if they if you do well together, then you see them for a lifetime. I've been invited to graduations and, it's so cool to watch people grow. So you decide, what are your goals? What do you want? What do you believe that you can achieve? What they believe they can achieve really determines a lot of how far they're going to go. And so when I get a sense of what do they believe they can achieve, then I'm going to create that leg for them, create that device for them to help them achieve that, teach them to use that, be there with them along the way as they develop those skill sets back and reclaim their new life. And especially I got to work with a lot of Paralympic athletes when I was in California, where I went to school. And so especially with them, and I've had a lot of them on my podcast because, you may think your life's over once you've lost your leg, but you know what? Now your life could have even more power than it would have had if you had 2 legs or if you had 2 arms. And so I love prosthetics. That's my truest passion in that as a practitioner. Orthotics is very empowering as well. It's kind of bracing, fixing deformities or helping weaknesses that occurred from stroke or whatever. And so it's very similar pattern, except for people have that limb. It's a little more challenging because you have to try not to be the bad guy sometimes, because people have to come with more to terms of where they are, as opposed to when your leg's gone. So now we got to move forward, So in the orthotics, you do have to teach a lot more like the concept of, being real, but still finding what your new power is. So if you can't fully get that strength back, how can this still be, how can you still make your life amazing? And so that's my practitioner work. That's what I do the most of my day. In Oldham Strong, my husband and I both had personal training businesses. I started mine at 19, and I forget how old he was when he started his. But when we got married, we blended them together. Mine was always like just big enough that it was what I was paying in school, paying myself in school and things like that. So we blended it together. And then a couple years ago, we actually launched our website for the first time. And so what we're working on with Oldham Strong now is it's really grown. We do a lot of in-person training. We do corporate wellness, which is where we go into businesses. We bring all the equipment, train them. We do nutrition talks each month. We do group challenges. I love corporate wellness because it's the same thing. It's like team building. We take them and we make them build as a team. We take them to do those escape games and do these really cool things and rewards for like them accomplishing and do really cool things with that. So we do that for businesses as a perk for their employees. And then online training is kind of all life coaching as well. People have it usually starts with a physical goal, but then obviously we all know that like the external condition is really a reflection of the internal condition. So we end up working on both. And in what we do, we don't just keep it strictly to, well, we're here to be your personal trainer and work on this. Like we're going to work on all of it because that's what's going to get you all of it anyways. That's what you see in that transformation photo is not just the new cuts and shapes in the body. It's you see the whole like aura of that person in that after photo change. They're standing more erect. They look like their feet are solid on the ground. They've got a smile and they know who they are and they have their confidence. And so that's what we do with that. The newest thing we're working on is we have actual programs coming up. So they're not just like a subscription, but it's like a program that includes a lot more in-depth personal development to them. So it's not just, you do get workouts, you do get videos to follow along and things like that, but it gets daily motivation, daily, weekly challenges, give back opportunities to help you realize how much you really have in your life to kind of wake you up. So we have a lot of different things that we're incorporating. So our next thing coming out will be our Summer Strong program. So we're really excited about that.
Awesome. And then the podcast. Tell us about the podcast.
Yes. So the podcast, I launched that beginning of this year, and it's called The Abundance Formula, which is what I'm super passionate about. And basically the concept of the podcast is it's bringing people in for, to sit. Basically, it feels like you're sitting in the room for a chat with some really epic people. I've been blessed to have access to a lot of really big people in my life, celebrities, Oscar-winning directors, just high-achieving entrepreneurs, multimillionaires, just really great people with amazing wisdom. And so it's like, I know these people, I need to bring them into a space so people can hear what do successful people think like, but not just successful people. It's abundance. There's a difference between the two. You can feel the difference in the vibe of somebody that's abundant versus someone that's only successful and their degree of happiness and fulfillment. So there's a difference, and that's what you experience through the podcast is you hear the common threads after you hear from people from so many different facets and professions. They're all so different because I want to show people that the formula is still the same. You just apply it to yourself. So, we get to hear a lot about their life experiences and what abundance means to them and how they achieved it and how other people can do the same. And so it's just giving people an ear to how people think, dream, overcome issues and problems and obstacles to create abundance, both in the best of times and especially in the worst of times. So that's what that podcast is about.
That's beautiful. So I'm curious, what does abundance mean to you?
So abundance to me, I feel like it directly ties to kind of what I said earlier about how really the difference between where you are right now and where you want to be is the measure of your faith. And so for me, I'd say the perfect example of how to get the point across would be, say, the time that I had, less than $25 in my bank account is I literally didn't have any food. I had been eating for a couple of days off of who I was renting from. There was a garden in the back, and she told me that I could have and it was like grapefruit at the time. So I couldn't have any of those. There was too many. So I was like just eating grapefruit literally from the backyard because I didn't have any other money. I didn't have gas money to go to the store. Even I'd have to walk if I was going to go there. And so I literally had nothing left. My parents had been divorced. So neither of them, we just got divorced. So neither of them had money to help. My dad was doing his best, but just sometimes he just couldn't, there wasn't anything he could do. And so I hit one point where I just literally had nothing to eat. There was no more fruit. And I was just like, okay, I had to just open my Bible, and I like just opened it up randomly, like, okay, Lord, say something to me. And the verse it was about how if God so feeds the sparrows of the air and clothes the flowers of the field, how much more will he not feed and clothe you? Which was like so perfect. I was like, oh my gosh. So in that moment, I had to make the choice that I knew I always felt I was meant for great things. I always felt I had a really big purpose, and I was very important to him. So if I'm this important to you, Lord, I got to eat. And you know what? I believe this verse. I have faith that, I don't have food. I'm giving everything I have. I'm working in every blank space of time between grad school that I have. You're going to have to do the rest. But then I really but I actually believed that. I was like, so he's going to. Yeah. And literally within minutes of me actually fully believing and having that degree of faith, all right, close the Bible. He's going to find a way for me to eat today. My grandmother called, who lived an hour away, and just randomly was coming to town and said, hey, I want to take you out to eat, and I want to take you to the grocery store.
Wow.
And so in that moment, what that showed me about abundance is when you tap into the fullest capacity of your faith, where you actually know that there's something greater beyond yourself that's working for your purpose, then you truly have tapped into the ultimate power. And I didn't have to do anything beyond show up. So abundance is really when you have that degree of faith and you figure out how to actually have that and relinquish that control, you literally have power beyond the universe to bring you food when you have none, to bring you that $1,000 when you need it, to change exactly what you need at that time. And that's so much power. It's so we really can do anything that we want, but it takes that full undoubting belief, and that's hard for people to get because we want so much control. We want to see the whole path, but we're not given that because for me personally, just believing in God, because it's about the faith journey. It's not about letting you see the whole path. It's about you doing it blind but moving. And so that to me is what abundance is you tap into abundance when you realize there's so much power that you have in the now because you believe it. And it's especially available in the worst times because that's when successful people are made. It's not when they actually reach the goal. It's in the journey to get to that goal. And so I want people to realize abundance isn't meaning, oh, I have the wealth. I have all the family now. I'm pregnant with the baby now. The wealth is actually in the fact that you struggled with infertility. It's in the fact that, you've been through these abusive situations and the eating disorders and not having any money. That's where all of the value is that you give back to everybody else to help them write their story so that it ends with success like yours. So that's a very long answer to it.
No, it's great. I loved it. I love the dialogue. When someone is at the point where they don't feel like they have something to show for their struggles yet, like what you mentioned that, they have faith. God will provide and have that faith. But is there anything else that can get them through that portion of time? How to leverage their mindset, their thought process, the abundance around them, the principle of abundance. How can they more effectively move through those challenging times?
So I'd say there's definitely several things because, it's not like the answer always comes very quickly,
right.
As in that specific example. What I would say is, first of all, is definitely I learned that you have to eliminate any negative, non-fruitful, energy-giving, anything that's happening in your life. That means you have to eliminate certain people, which for me, that was even eliminating very close family members to myself that I didn't speak to for a year. Wow. That means eliminating people that even if you feel bad about it, that they are being toxic to you at the time and it's not helping you. So eliminating people that are bringing you down, you're only filling your mind with things that are positive. You can't have anything else. There's just, the really great, it's just so true. You hear it in so many different places that, the vision and the ideals that you glorify in your mind, those build your life and they build who you are. They do. Your thoughts becomes your actions. or your lack of actions. So you have to fill your brain with only that supports that. And then I'd say the third part is the taking action part. Like, I didn't always know where I was supposed to go. In fact, when that biggest faith point, when that breakthrough happens, right before you slay that giant, it's always the part where you feel like you have no idea what you're doing, but you're just doing something. So for me, keeping moving is what will help open those doors, because I always give the analogy of like, you're in the hallway and so the door closes. If you just stand there in front of the door that closed, you don't see that there's any other doors that are open, but it's like, you can't see the rest of the hallway. So you have to keep going because there's other doors that are going to be open. So you have to be moving to see the new door that's open. Just because the one closed on your right doesn't mean up on the left there's going to be another one, not going to be another open. So just like doing what you feel is the next best right thing to do. So depending on what circumstance you're in, whatever your gut tells you is the next like right decision to do, that job you need to go take or whatever, just go do that, and just do, even if it doesn't work out, moving to that position gives you a new vantage point. So you can see new things. And again, back to what you put in your head, when you have an abundance mindset, when you think of not being from a lack mentality, but from an abundance mentality, like, okay, things that are happening for me, even if they don't look like they're good right now, they're actually for me. Then when you see abundance, it's kind of like if you never really wanted a Ferrari before, but then all of a sudden you become obsessed that you really want a Ferrari. You're going to see Ferraris everywhere on the road. You're going to see them in the parking lot. You're going to see them, in the store. Like, you're going to see them on commercials. Like, you're going to see them on your Instagram feed. Like, you're like, where do all these Ferraris come from? But it's because it's what you're focusing on expands. So it's the same thing with conceptual things like abundance, like on not focusing on lack. You're going to see all the opportunities everywhere because you're actually like awake to them. And it's like super real. So those are some like 3 tangible steps I would say that start opening the doors for you. Is doing that.
That's beautiful. And I love how you said, keep moving, because that's the biggest thing is so many people get paralyzed when they're stopped. And even if keep moving and it combines with, listening to positive motivational videos, if that's all you can do, if you were like just so stuck and so overwhelmed that all you can do is throw on a video. I know I've been at times in my life where I'm like, I just want to quit. I want to give up. And like, that was the easiest thing to do, but it started me moving in the other direction. It started getting my thoughts off of the problem and onto the solution. And Jeana, you mentioned about these giants. Tell us more about like why you refer to them as giants, slay the giant. Like, I love the analogy, but I don't hear it that often. It's really cool, like, so tell us more about why you personify these challenges as giants, as big people, as things, tell us more about that.
I guess I'd say for me, it's kind of a combination of things. I've always felt like, because, again, I've always felt called to a really big purpose that would be on some really, big level. And that was going to take a lot of responsibility. And I feel like even the little things in my life, even just like in high school or whatever, it's like nothing could ever come like easy. I always had to I always feel like I had to freaking fight for it. And I was like, geez, and so I always related to then, like, in reading the Bible, I always related to like Joshua, who's like was the soldier, and like he was every bit as impactful as Moses, but Moses didn't have to freaking fight the battles, but Joshua did. And so I've always felt like that, like I've had to go through wars to actually get to the point, but that was the skill sets I was also given too. Like, I am really strong. I'm very strong emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I've been able to carry a lot more weight than some other people that maybe that's not their gift set. So I knew that God would use that. So I've always kind of related myself to kind of that warrior spirit. And so then again, just and compare it to the Bible, there's David and Goliath. And so I just think of, David didn't see Goliath as the giant, I mean, he saw him as the opportunity. He saw him as this person standing into the gateway of my next dimension of life. So he needs to be removed. Wow. Whereas everybody else who was actually trained as soldiers didn't see it that way. But what's neat, if you know anything about the story of David, is that he was a shepherd first. And so it's interesting that the greatest kings weren't just born into being kings. They had to be shepherds first. They had to learn to take care of their flock. Wow. And they learned to, and so what's interesting is, like the lions that David killed with his bare hands are what prepared him for Goliath. Wow. So to me, I started to see those correlations in my life. The things that were little at first that I experienced in high school, were just the lions or the wolves that I had to practice fending off from my sheep or fending off from my life, from my purpose. And so then when the bigger things came, I recognized them for what they were, is that they were opportunities. And they were just, what that meant is I had entered a new gateway. This is the next gate to the dimension of my higher purpose. And to be the person I need to be on the other end of that gate, I have to face this giant first. So that's, I guess I don't know if that explains it fully, but I just have always kind of seen it in the context of that, I suppose. And I mean, the big things in our life, they feel big, they feel impossible, they feel like nobody else has experienced them. And that's how people feel like giants are. They're so rare. They're so, nobody else has run into a giant, but like everybody has, and even if they haven't, it doesn't matter. This is for you, because we need you to show up big enough so that you can be what you need to be on the other side. Wow. So I don't know if that explains it at all.
It does. It did a great job. And I love all of the biblical references. I think you were empowered a lot through this process of growing spiritually, growing yourself spiritually. I don't know what kind of upbringing you had, but it's clear that you've done a lot of biblical research, reading, study, that kind of thing, which gives you a great foundation to stand upon. Now, we don't need to have that to be successful or to be abundant or anything like that, but I think it's so awesome that we can tap into these different stories and sources, whether it's the Bible, whether it's other documents or books or whatever that spiritual thing is. But I think what I really get from you is this strong faith, this strong spiritual grounding. And I think oftentimes people who are lacking that, it's a little bit more difficult for them to have a healthy relationship with success, with trust. But I mean, everyone's on whatever end of the spectrum that they are. It completely varies. But I love that you infuse that in everything that you talk about, because I hear it and it's powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, it's whatever each person, everybody believes in something, even atheists. Like, there's something when you get to the darkest point of your life, you believe in something, whatever that is, whether it's source, whether it's universe, whether it's karma, whatever it is. Like when you get to when you're in like I had a patient who was a soldier, and he told me, he said, I have never met an atheist in the trenches. And that was a pretty powerful thing. Wow. So whatever it is that you find when you're in that moment, that you have to believe that there's the biggest point is that there's something greater beyond ourselves. Like, I think most people would agree to that. So like the purpose of you succeeding is for a greater purpose than the fact that you succeeded. It's for something bigger. It's for some kind of value that's going to provide to the rest of the world and to other people, because that's where people feel the fulfillment. Like they can make the $1 million, but that $1 million means nothing if it doesn't actually do something that makes them feel like they've provided value. We all just want to provide value. And that's where the happiness is. So that's really like the overall meaning, is that there's more to life than you just being successful. It's like, what are you doing with that success? What is it yielding to the world, and what is your legacy from that? So what gets you to that? What do you believe in that gets you to that point?
So when you talk about legacy, what does legacy mean to you, and what do you see is unfolding in your legacy?
For me, I would say legacy to me means like, if I could write down, or even if I actually couldn't even write down because it's too many, if I could account for as many lives that I've changed, like, and the cascade effect of, because they changed that life and it continued forward, that's what means the most to me. That's the true definition of if you're a real leader. Especially say in the fitness industry, it can be a typical stance to be like, well, I don't want to give them too many secrets, because then they might not need me. They may like figure out they can do it on their own, and then they may not need me. Or I've heard other people, like other trainers, you'll train somebody and they feel really successful, then they go start training people and they get their own clients, and you lose them as a client and whatever. But to me, that they are extensions of the fingertips of my legacy, because if I empower them enough to feel like they owned their journey enough that now they felt they could teach it with their own twist and continue to do the same for other people, that's not taking away from me, that's adding to my life. You know what I mean? So to have the perception of that, your legacy is how far is the extent of your fingertips into the world? How deep do your roots go? Is your cup so overflowing that then it pours into the next person's cup, and it fills them so full that then they have to pour it into somebody else's cup? and that continues to grow. So that to me is what a legacy really means. Like, what value have you really provided to as many people as you could possibly do? And then each person that they do beyond that, creating a movement to me would be creating a legacy, not just like making a specific one place impact, but creating a movement and sending a ripple effect.
No, powerful. I love it. I love it. In terms of your growth, especially in the last couple months or few years, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges as you step into this greater version of yourself?
I mean, I'd say definitely the greatest challenges come, especially for my personality, being someone that's very perfectionistic, and I am a planner. The hardest part is to accept that you just don't get to know all of the details along the way. The hardest part is knowing that like you just have to start, you have to just try things and see what they do. I'd certainly, since I grew up very high achieving, and I was very known like in the community that I was in, I felt like I was kind of in a spotlight. So if I ever didn't do something perfectly, it got pointed out. And it was kind of glorified, like, oh, Jeana messed up, or Jeana didn't get first place. And it became this like thing that didn't feel okay, that I maybe didn't do it perfect first time, or maybe I didn't get first place for once, for goodness sakes. Like, who, and so I never was allowed to feel like it was okay to have a learning moment. So it's been a constant struggle my whole life to ever fear to let people see me in a learning stage of something. But I've learned now, especially in the things we're doing now with the person getting focused more on personal development and life coaching, is that's very important for people to see, because people don't just don't relate to perfection. And I'm certainly not perfect. So what I've really been working on now is sharing more of the vulnerability. Like even, a lot of the giants in my life, a lot of the people very close to me don't really even know about them, like the different abuses, or that I've ever had an eating disorder, or these, severe anxiety, or these different things. And those are things I'm just now starting to share and figure out how to share them and what depth to share them, because I'm always trying not to hurt other people. And you know what I mean? Like, so like that's something I'm really working on now, is because I know that that's where the greatest power lies, to change more people and to help more people, get out of the dark places of their life. But it's hard for me because like, I probably won't deliver the story just right, and some family member is going to be pissed at me, and so it's gonna, so those things, the worry of like, well, what's going to happen if I do this? But you just have to do it, and if you're doing it with the right heart, it's all going to line up. Or if you've never written a big program before, you've got to just throw it out there and see what people's opinions are. And if they want to give you opinions, and you do it better the next time, like it's okay to take the feedback. And so I'm learning to let people see me in the learning phase. So the podcast was a great, new thing for me. I'd never podcasted. I'm not a tech person. I had to figure all that out, and so for me, that was, something for a learning experience to, nobody likes the sound of their voice or whatever, it's like, so to throw that out there for everybody to hear was, like, here's you guys watching me learn how to freaking do a podcast. Like, if it's any good, or if there's sound issues, like, see me figure it out and like be part of that journey. So I'm letting people in more on the journey of the new things that I'm creating, and the step-by-steps of the way when it's going great or when it's not going great. So that's kind of the newest, I guess, journey I would say.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it, because that's the human part. That's what people connect with. Like you said, people need to see that we're not necessarily perfect and have it all together all the time. That's what builds the connection. It's such an interesting balance as an influencer, is to show them enough to be vulnerable, to like show that, hey, I'm human too, but not to just like constantly be negative or constantly be, like hurting your reputation, because it's just, there's too much of that kind of stuff and not enough of the positive, inspiring, uplifting. So it's such an amazing dance. I love it. I love the art of building a brand. So in terms of the podcast, where do you see that going and the impact that that's going to have on people?
The podcast, my real goal for the podcast, what I would love to do is to eventually build it into being an event. My goal would maybe be next year to build it to be an event. Like I said, to have access to some really amazing, epic people. And so they would certainly be present at this event to help to teach and again, especially like having grown up with all the psychology with my dad, like there's a lot of practices that can just really help people to like, come to an event with other people that are like-minded and like just explode in their life as a springboard from there.
Yes.
So I feel like the abundance formula is a perfect springboard into an event to bring people together to learn and implement into their life what is their abundance formula, so that then they can take that and grow. definitely, I do feel called that I will write a book very
Yes.
soon.
Yes.
And definitely the abundance formula has given me a lot of content, that's part of that story, not only my own story, but like, my favorite question I ask everyone at the end is like, what does abundance mean to you? And if others could, ask you how to build abundance into their own life, what would you tell them? And so it's been so cool to hear all the different answers. Like that alone could be a book in itself.
Yeah.
So I definitely see different ways to bring all of the teachings from that, as well as from my own life, into a book, a personal development book for people to read as well. So those are probably the two biggest things
Mm.
that I see, in the future. And certainly, like, I would love to do a retreat at some point, but the event will probably be first,
Beautiful.
springboarding from the podcast.
Yeah. What is the abundance formula? Because you mentioned that. Is there like pillars or core concepts that we need to know about it?
Yeah, so I feel like from after listening to to all the people, and before obviously because I had to create the content before the
Right.
name before, but is that people who are not just successful but abundant people,
Hmm.
and send that ripple effect through the world, are people that have found that there's great value in developing their mind, their body, their spirit, whatever
Hmm.
that is for each person, and their purpose. And that it takes being intentional in each of those areas. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect in each of those areas all the time, and spend like equal amount of time in each of those every single day.
Hmm.
But you have to know they exist. And if you're feeling out of alignment, it's because one of those areas is lacking. So
Hmm.
then you need to catch which one of those it is, whether it's your health or whether it's, that you aren't connected into your deeper spirit. There's a difference between your heart and your head, and the journey between those two is a long journey.
Mm.
There's a long path between those two. And so they are different. And defining what that is to you and finding clarity, as Tony Robbins says, clarity is the key to success, being very clear on where you're wanting to be
Mm.
in life. So, being very clear on what's in your mind, what is the content of your mind. If somebody could look into your mind, what would they see, and would it be something you're happy with them seeing?
Hmm.
And same with your body. Like, do you feel good? Do you,
Yeah.
and it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel, and how you feel will reflect in you'll like how you look, based because feel right, you feel
Mm.
confident, and you feel the energy to do what you're called to do. And again, the spirituality and your purpose. Like, we all are stagnant and unhappy if you don't feel like you have a reason to be here.
Mm.
That tends to be the ultimate root of unhappiness, is you just don't feel like your life means anything.
Wow.
So you have to be very clear about, especially in the purpose area. I encourage people to make micro wins that lead to the macro win, because otherwise you don't celebrate as much.
Mm.
You're way too hard on yourself. Like, you need to create more micro wins, micro steps, breadcrumbs towards your big purpose. And your purpose is forever. It's ever changing,
Right.
it's ever developing. So it's not like a destination you ever reach. So make those micro wins so you can celebrate way more frequently.
Yeah,
And
and gratitude and
yes,
acknowledgement,
exactly.
celebration, like a
Yeah.
daily process of what did I do right today?
Yeah.
How did I make steps towards my goals today? What can I
Yeah.
be grateful for today? And, like, what does that look like for acknowledgement for you listening, watching? What does acknowledgement of yourself look like? Because nobody's going to come along and do it for you. You might be fortunate enough to have people who encourage you, who empower you, who, you have coaches, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, it will only reach your soul and fill you up if you are the one who is giving it to yourself and accepting it and receiving it from the people around you. But it really starts with the initiative of yourself and having a pure intention of, man, I really am proud of myself. I really do appreciate myself. I really do acknowledge myself because I took this step forward. And that is so important, Jeana. So important.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even going with that, it's like the things that you want in life, if you want that successful relationship, nobody will ever be able to love you if you don't
Mm.
love yourself. Like,
Mm.
you will find the lover to the capacity that you love yourself. That's who you'll accidentally attract. That's who you'll accidentally choose. I've heard people say, like, if you want that deal, or you want that opportunity, financially or in your business, it's like, if you so believe in what it is that you're providing, like, that you could sell, you're so confident and you're passionate that you could sell snow, if that's what you're trying to, like, they don't even know that they believe in the snow you're selling, but they believe you, because you're just like, they feel it from you. Like, they
Mm.
feel it, like, that you believe in this thing. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the money you need to do it, because we feel that in you. So, like, yeah, like you said, you have to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself. That's where it all starts. It's where everything
Mm.
cascades from.
Mm.
So Totally agree.
Wow. Juicy, juicy. What have been some of the biggest sources of personal development and growth, or growth for you, in addition to the Bible?
Definitely a lot of books. I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely just really hover towards personal development books, mindset books, even especially psychology books. I just, because again, it's like the science of the mind. It's so neat. There's some really neat topics like neuroplasticity right now, which is the concept of that, our brains want to be comfortable, even on a chemical level and a cellular level. And so what abundant people do is they put themselves out of their comfort zone in their mind. So you picture who am I going to need to be doing that big thing, in a year or whatever it is. And they think those kind of thoughts now, which makes them uncomfortable, because that's maybe they aren't the confident, outgoing person right now, but they start thinking the way that person would think and doing the things that person would do. And it makes them uncomfortable. So their brain, in order to balance it, will change itself on a chemical level to bring that into reality and to make you become that person. And so there's really neat sciences behind those things, which makes you like, which I just love that stuff because I'm sciencey, but definitely books. I love books. And I like to read books. I like hard copies. I'm still old school. I like I like to highlight. Yep. I like to have it in my hands. And then in the car, what I like to do, I really hardly listen to music anymore, honestly, because I just listen to podcasts. So I really listen to a lot of personal development podcasts like yours. I love Lori Harder's podcast, Chris Harder's podcast, stuff with Tony Robbins, any of that stuff, YouTube. Yep. That's pretty much what I just fill my brain with all the time is, those kinds of books. I try to read 10 minutes a day. Tony Robbins says, if you can read 10 minutes of a book every day, it's going to change your life. So I try to do, and then the podcast. And if I listen to music, I try to keep it to be music that especially it's putting something good in my mind. For workouts, obviously I listen to, top hits or whatever and things. Right. But I certainly listen to my mood. And if I'm feeling any sort of bit off, then I just don't listen to stuff where it's like, why am I going to listen to a breakup song if I'm not feeling good? Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to listen to something, more uplifting. So
I love what you mentioned about that, because, even if you feel good and you're like, I can just listen to the top hits and stuff. Like, I found that I got comfortable listening to electronic dance music, and I just started listening to that all the time at the gym, and no more inspirational, positive, motivational videos. And just recently I started listening to YouTube in the background, and listening to Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, all these amazing, inspiring people. And it's it's so interesting, that dance of too much versus not enough, or being obsessed with the growth, and then people are like, oh, you're it's too much, and then you make people uncomfortable around you, and it's like, okay, so I gotta dial it back just a little bit to keep people. It's not the objective is not to make people comfortable, but it's to still live life, and I think that there's an enjoyment of music, of arts, that's important, while still fueling ourselves and being, for me, it's relentless in my personal growth. I am hungry, I'm obsessed. So to let that go so far out of balance, I just got to see, back on a couple years, that I noticed I wasn't growing in the times where I was just super comfortable with listening to music. And when I started listening to personal development or listening to audiobooks as I'm driving, in the morning, whatever it might be, at the gym, I just found that I grew so much more faster.
Mm-hmm. And another one that I just thought of while you were saying that was, because it's hard sometimes, people are like, oh, you need, meditate or visualize or manifest and those things, but, have a hard time finding sitting still and doing it or whatever. But I like to tell people daydream. So if I'm driving in the car and I'm just kind of not feeling because you're not always feeling a podcast, you're not even, can't find the right channel. Nothing really just sounds good to you. You're just driving in silence. And so to me, I use that as my visualization time or my daydreaming time to picture, the life that I'm wanting. So especially being pregnant now, I picture okay, I picture having a really great, healthy birth. And I picture what my day might look like when our baby girl is here and what that's going to look like. And, working at home, for a little while and being with her and just really developing our family. It's it's okay to daydream. We do it so much as kids and we get so creative, and that's where all the magic is. We have to relearn to incorporate that into our adulthood. Freaking daydream, it's okay. It's not stupid. I don't know where we end up gathering that adult life. That's stupid to daydream and just enjoy thinking of all these epic things you really picture yourself doing and picture it as real as you can. Right. Because if you want to be on a stage one day, picture being on that stage. What does it smell like? What do the people sound like? Who's maybe in the front row? And those things, because I'm about And so it really empowers you. And by the next thing you know, I'm ready for this work day, So I do that a lot too. It's just a form of personal development. It's just be okay to daydream and feel like a kid in doing that. And it really helps.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love it. So we're beginning to come to the end. This time's flying freaking by. It's crazy. So like final points, did we cover everything that we wanted to around the abundance formula, about, being your greatest possible self, choosing freedom? Is there any other last minute things that you can think of around those?
I would just definitely say that tying it into your podcast about, being your greatest possible self, like to really find out how powerful you are, to be your greatest possible self, like to find that true power within you. You're going to really have to, you're going to come to those moments in life where there's going to be that breaking point, or there's that giant, and you're going to have that moment of belief that what it is you're meant to do, you are meant to have it. And so you have to tap into that power. You have to believe it's yours and actually believe it with every fiber that you have. And that's when you're going to tap into abundance, and know it's not just sitting on the couch saying, well, I really believe in abundance, and you're just going to sit on the couch and expect it to come to you. No, you do have to grind. You do have to work very hard. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy path. But if you're doing all those things, if you're showing up, if you're taking the steps, even if you're not really sure where you're going, if you're showing up, then you have the right to those things. And so if you want to become your greatest possible self, it's going to be very integral to figure out how to harness, a belief in something bigger, even if it's just, how the value and the success you're really wanting, what that's supposed to mean to the world. So really be ready to take the leap of faith. Isn't just like the action of the jumping. It's in the belief that it's going to work out when you jump. It's that faith that has to happen first before you jump. That's really that's the ticket there, is knowing that when you jump, the world is before you and you're going to fly to where you're supposed to go. And then you take the action. So that's what I would just kind of say. That's to tap in your greatest possible self, is to tap into abundance, which is to tap into that faith to take the leap. So
Juicy. So Jeana, how do people stay connected with you, and what do we want them to do next?
So you can follow myself on Instagram at J Oldham, which is JOLDHAM_NPC. And then we also have an Oldham Strong page, which is OLDHAM Strong. On Instagram, it's a newer page. So that's on Instagram. Then as well on Facebook, we have an Oldham Strong Facebook page, which is our business page. And then I'm also Jeana Oldham, spelled JEANA Oldham, on Facebook. And then the podcast is on iTunes, as well as our website, The Abundance Formula, on iTunes. And we're working on a YouTube channel. We're not done with it, but we're working on that. So that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And we would just love for you guys to not only check out the podcast, so you can, give us your input and, review it and let us know maybe who you want to see next, or what type of people you want to see next, and check out our website for kind of the coaching that we offer. And again, what you see there as the online personal training is what is the life coaching too, because it's all encompassing. So there's a subscription, or there's versions where you can just pay for a certain amount of things. And we do nutrition coaching as well. So just check us out. And there's a way you can also just message us there and just talk with us. We do free consults, so we can just call and chat with you and just help figure out, what do you think? You may not know what your goal is, but we'll talk to you and figure it, see if we're right for you. It's not a big deal if it ends out if we're not, but we will certainly talk to you and see if we have a connection and that you want to work with us. So we just love to talk and help everybody. So, and our email is info@oldhamstrong.com.
Beautiful.
And all that's on our website, www.oldhamstrong.com.
Awesome. Anything else?
I think that's it. I was like, oh gosh, what are all the things? They'll be in your show notes, I think. So if people miss any of that,
they will. Oh my gosh, that's awesome, Jeana. You are a freaking all-star, and I'm super excited to see your potential blossom, because you have the foundation to really build a massive empire, legacy, impact, family. Everything that you want, anything you want to achieve, you are set up. So keep taking steps forward, keep taking that action, and keep slaying those giants.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you on my podcast next week.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. Yes. Can't
Awesome.
wait to delve into you.
All right. Thanks, Jeana. We'll see you soon, okay?
All right. Bye. Thank
All right.
you.